Nobody warns you about this. Not your therapist, not your closest friend, not the self-help book you read twice and highlighted all the way through. Nobody tells you that one day you can be standing in the middle of a crowded room, laughing, nodding, holding a drink, and feel absolutely nothing. Not sadness, not anger, not even loneliness in the traditional sense. Just this strange, hollow stillness, like watching your own life through foggy glass and realizing the person on the other side is you, but somehow not quite you anymore. And the most terrifying part? You don't scream. You don't cry. You just quietly go home, wash your face, and get into bed like everything is fine. Because from the outside, everything is fine. That's the part nobody talks about. There's a kind of disconnection that doesn't look like depression. It doesn't look like breakdown. It doesn't announce itself with dramatic episodes or obvious signs that something is wrong. It arrives slowly, almost politely, the way fog rolls in at dawn. And by the time you notice it, you're already deep inside it. The soul, when it begins to disconnect from the world, doesn't shout. It whispers. And then, eventually, it goes silent. You probably know what this feels like, even if you've never had the words for it. It's the moment when something that used to excite you just doesn't anymore. When you look at plans you made, a trip, a dinner, a project you were passionate about, and feel a kind of flat indifference you can't quite explain. You tell yourself you're tired. You tell yourself it's just a phase. You scroll through your phone for 40 minutes without absorbing a single thing, and then you put it down and immediately pick it back up. Not because you want to, but because the alternative is sitting alone with the silence inside you, and somehow that feels worse. This is the quiet disconnection, and it is far more common than anyone admits. We live in an age where we are more connected than any human beings in history have ever been. We carry the voices of thousands of people in our pockets. We can reach anyone, anywhere, at almost any moment. We have more entertainment, more information, more stimulation available to us at any given second than entire civilizations had access to in a lifetime. And yet, there is a growing epidemic of people who feel profoundly, inexplicably, and almost embarrassingly empty. Not broken in the ways we've been taught to recognize, just distant. Like the volume of life has been turned down so gradually that you didn't notice until you realized you couldn't remember the last time you truly felt something real. The soul disconnects quietly because it has learned that the world is loud. It retreats because it has been overstimulated for so long that stillness starts to feel threatening. We were not built for this level of noise. Not emotional noise, not social noise, not the relentless noise of a world that demands your attention 24 hours a day and then calls you lazy for being exhausted. The nervous system has limits. The heart has limits. And when those limits are crossed again and again without adequate rest, without genuine depth, without real nourishment, something begins to pull away. Not dramatically, not even consciously at first, just quietly, the way a tide pulls back from the shore before anyone on the beach has noticed. Think about the last time you were truly present, not performing presence, not sitting across from someone while mentally composing a reply, not watching something while also looking at your phone, not doing one thing while thinking about 7 others. Truly present, absorbed, alive to the moment in front of you. For many people, that answer is uncomfortable, because the honest answer is, not recently. Maybe not in a long time. And somehow, without making any single decisive choice to leave, we have drifted from ourselves, from the texture of our own lives, from the sensation of actually being here. This is what the quiet disconnection does. It doesn't take you somewhere dramatic. It doesn't collapse your world in visible ways. It simply makes the world feel less real. Colors don't look quite as vivid. Food doesn't taste quite as satisfying. Conversations feel like they're happening on a slight delay, like you're receiving signals from a satellite that's just a little too far away. You go through the motions, beautifully sometimes, because you are practiced at this. You have become skilled at functioning. But functioning is not the same as living, and somewhere in the interior of who you are, you know the difference. And here is what nobody says about this state. It is not weakness. It is not ingratitude. It is not a personal failing or a character flaw, or a sign that something is fundamentally wrong with you. It is, in many cases, the intelligent response of a soul that has been asked to endure too much, absorb too much, and perform too much for too long without adequate return. The disconnection is protective. It is the psyche drawing a curtain. It is the self doing what it needs to do to survive an environment that was not designed with its survival in mind. But survival is not the destination. And if you stay behind the curtain long enough, something shifts. The protection becomes the prison. The numbness that once shielded you from pain begins to shield you from joy too. You stop being able to feel the things that used to make you come alive. Music that once moved you to tears. Moments of beauty that stopped you in your tracks. The particular warmth of being deeply known by another person. The walls you built to keep suffering out, keep everything out. And one day, you realize you can't remember exactly when you last felt genuinely, undeniably, and unmistakably alive. This is the moment that matters, not the disconnection itself. That is almost inevitable given how we live now. But the moment of recognition, the moment you become aware that something has gone quiet inside you that was not meant to go quiet. The moment you stop explaining it away as tiredness or busyness or stress, and you sit with the deeper question, where did I go? Because that's what it feels like, ultimately. Not like the world has become less interesting. It feels like you have become less present to it. Like some essential part of you has slowly retreated to a place you can't quite reach. And the desire, even if it's faint, even if it's buried under months or years of numbness, the desire is to come back, to feel something real again, to be in your life rather than adjacent to it. The path back is not what most people expect. It is not louder. It is not more. It does not involve doing more things, filling more time, achieving more goals, surrounding yourself with more people. The soul does not reconnect through volume. It reconnects through depth, through slowness, through the deliberate and sometimes uncomfortable practice of turning toward what is real rather than what is distracting. It begins often with honesty. The particular kind of honesty that costs something, the admission, even if only to yourself, that you have been absent, that you have been going through motions, that the smile has been slightly separate from the feeling, that you have been managing your life from a distance and calling it fine. This honesty is not self-punishment. It is the first act of self-recognition. It is you saying to yourself, I see you. I know you're still in there. Come back. Then comes the practice of noticing, not fixing, not solving, just noticing. The warmth of sunlight on your arm, the specific sound of rain against a window, the weight of your own breathing. These are small things. Embarrassingly small, perhaps, for the scale of what you're trying to address. But the soul does not return all at once. It does not sweep back in on a grand wave of revelation. It returns in small increments, drawn back by small moments of genuine attention, by the moments when you decide, again and again, to be here. Actually, here, in this body, in this breath, in this exact second of your one irreplaceable life. There is also the matter of grief, because somewhere in the disconnection, there are things you have lost or set aside or stopped allowing yourself to want, dreams that became embarrassing, hopes that felt too fragile to keep holding, parts of yourself that were inconvenient or complicated or didn't fit the version of you that the world seemed to want. The reconnection often requires a mourning of those things, not a wallowing. A true and tender acknowledgement that something real was let go, and that it deserved better than silence. And then, and this is the part people resist most, it requires allowing yourself to care again, fully, without the armor of irony or indifference or preemptive detachment. Caring is the most vulnerable thing a human being can do. It is the announcement that something matters to you, which means it has the power to hurt you. The disconnection, in many ways, is the choice to stop caring in order to stop being hurt. But you cannot selectively numb. You cannot choose to not care about the painful things without also choosing to not care about the beautiful ones. The door swings both ways, always. To reconnect with the world is to be willing to be affected by it again, to let things land, to let beauty be actually beautiful, to let sadness be actually sad, to let love be actually terrifying in the way that love, when it's real, always is. It is the choice to be permeable again in a world that has taught you that permeability is dangerous. And it is one of the bravest things you can do. There will be relationships that need to be examined. Not all connection is nourishing. Some of the noise that drove the soul away was the noise of obligations that never fed you, relationships that asked everything and returned nothing, environments that required your performance but not your presence. Reconnecting with yourself sometimes means having uncomfortable conversations about what you can no longer keep doing, about what has been draining the life from you quietly, consistently, without making a scene. The soul disconnects partly because it gives and gives and gives in spaces where it is never truly received. Finding spaces where you are received, where you are actually seen, not just used or observed, is not a luxury. It is a necessity for any real return. There is something quietly revolutionary about a person who chooses to come back to themselves in a world that profits enormously from disconnection. Because the modern world, in many ways, needs you numb. It needs you scrolling, consuming, reacting, buying things to fill the gap, seeking stimulation to outrun the stillness. The moment you choose depth over distraction, presence over performance, genuine feeling over managed emotion, you are doing something that the world around you is not exactly designed to support. And yet that choice is the only real path back to yourself. This is not about achieving perfect mental health or reaching some enlightened state of permanent peace. This is about the humble, daily, imperfect practice of returning, of choosing, again and again, to be in contact with your own life, to be someone who actually inhabits their existence rather than narrates it from a safe distance. Some days the curtain lifts and you feel, truly feel, the staggering gift of being alive. Other days the fog comes back. The distance returns. The glass between you and the world reappears. And on those days, you practice the only thing that ever actually works. You notice, you breathe, and you begin again. The soul that has learned to disconnect has also learned something important about itself. That it has limits, that it has needs, that it requires conditions that the world does not automatically provide. That is not a weakness to overcome. That is wisdom to build on. The question is never whether the disconnection happened. The question is whether you are willing to keep choosing return over and over, as many times as it takes, for the rest of your life, because you are still here. Even behind the fog, even inside the numbness, even on the days when the world feels like a television show you're only half watching, you are still here. There is still something in you that can be reached, that is capable of being moved, that remembers what it felt like to be fully alive and has not entirely stopped wanting to feel that way again. That quiet part of you is not broken. It is waiting. And it has been waiting, with extraordinary patience, for you to come back and get it. Start small. Start today. Not with a plan or a program or a dramatic overhaul of your life. Start with one moment of genuine attention. One honest feeling you let yourself actually have. One conversation where you let down the performance for 60 seconds and let someone see something real. One walk where you leave the headphones out and let the world be loud and alive around you without managing it. One breath where you decide that being here, right now, in this inexact and uncertain and gorgeous life, is enough. The soul does not need to be rescued. It needs to be remembered. And the one who remembers it, the only one who can, is you. Sathids. If this touched something in you, leave a comment below. I read every single one, and your words might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. And if you've been finding your way back to yourself through this channel, consider subscribing. There's so much more of this kind of conversation coming, the kind that actually says what we're all quietly feeling.